So, hello friends. There are over 1,000 open-ended schemes in the mutual fund industry. And in such a scenario, how do you decide which scheme are best for your clients? To help us address this pertinent issue, today we have with us Saugata Chatterjee, Co-Chief Business Officer, Nippon India Mutual Fund. Saugata has played a key role in strengthening distribution outreach of the fund house. Welcome, Chatty.
Yes, thanks, Nishant. Thanks, Cafe Mutual, for giving us this opportunity. Uh, yeah, I think it's a good question you have started, or a message you have started with, and hopefully we'll try to simplify matters as we go ahead.
Nippon India has seen 24% growth in its AUM over the last 1 year. So, what are the three factors that has contributed to this growth?
Yeah, so I think it's very good question, and very a question which is very close to our heart, which we keep sharing with all our stakeholders, our partners, our investors, that how this company has been able to probably come to the growth path. All of us know that in the year 2020, when COVID happened, and the market was going through a similar sort of an environment what we are seeing today. We also had a very sharp drawdown in our AUMs, to the extent our AMC AUM had come down to 1,80,000 crores, which was probably the lowest point in our journey in the previous 5 to 7 years what we had seen. And it was very important for us to get back, and get back with a very strong methodical way of working, because the journey ahead for us at that point of time was looking to be difficult, but we had the inner strength, and the DNA of the company and the team was very much intact, in the sense we had that ability to fight and bounce back, which we had done in the past also. So what we did is, we definitely did three very critical things. One side is we ensured that the risk management framework and the process around which the fund management works across equity and debt uh, starts getting articulated rightly to the stakeholders. We had done quite a bit of incremental additions in our risk management framework in the 2019-20 period, and this was the time when we had to come out and demonstrate that and showcase that to our stakeholders. We have done this very successfully in the last 2 years by continuously talking about process improvement. We introduced fund casing in our company, which has now become a sort of a common discussion point when we talk to many of our stakeholders. So the first part was process improvement, which we did very effectively, and we continue to build on that in the current period as well as going forward. The second part was product. I think product innovation and product differentiation was the need of the hour at that point in time. And what we did effectively was seeding multiple ideas around index funds, ETFs. We brought in new ideas around multi-asset funds. We introduced many new ideas, like the Taiwan fund on the international side, silver fund, as the last offering was a silver fund. And of course, we started communicating our different products which we had in our basket very effectively, which made us stand out in the market, and made the investors and the distributors understand that this fund house has got ability to give us participation across asset classes with differentiated ideas. And I think that made us stand out, and we were no longer being probably seen as a fund house which has got probably one category as a strength. We had multiple categories to build on. So that was the second part. We brought in the product differentiation part. The third leg, I think, was very, very important during the COVID period and post-COVID period, was bring the our strength being engagement. We used platforms like yourselves as well as many other such platforms to keep connected with our partners, digitally as well as through mediums like yourselves to, communicate effectively the things which we have done or which we would like to do, supporting the partners on digital, way of doing business. So we did this sort of engagement very, very effectively. I think our team also on the ground parallelly ensured that the scale and size of the communication and the connect would be was very high. The decibel was very strong. And along with this, I think we started doing a lot of digital initiatives around marketing. So the brand building, communication, connect, the digital interface was the third leg, which we did very effectively. So what we are seeing today, the growth of 24%, as you mentioned last year, has been a cumulative effort of multiple things which we have done. Probably in a short period of time, we had to do it. We always knew that if the market bounces back post COVID and we had to do a recovery, so to say, we had to be very agile and nimble in getting all these things done effectively. So that's where we stand today, Nishant. We have a long journey to, achieve from here on. But we really believe that the building blocks have been put in place for us to probably take the next step of growth.
So, Chatty, you just spoke about innovations. So, in this context, Nippon India has introduced a concept called PoWER. So, can you take us through this? This philosophy of the fund house.
Yeah. So I think like you started off with, there are so many asset managers and there are so many product lines in the industry. When as an investor or as any of the distributors, also when you all are assessing, when anyone is assessing funds and the various categories, you tend to probably do your selection process looking at one or two parameters, which probably those parameters have life, the shelf lives are very shorter. If you take performance as a parameter, or you take some other what you call unique idea as a parameter, those shelf lives of those parameters sometimes are short lived. And hence it kept on making us think that if there are so many investors who are going to come into this industry going forward, there are so many schemes one has to keep assessing for probably zeroing down on what should be the right methodology to achieve our goals in a long period of time. How should, as we as an AMC which has got 26 years of experience, come and communicate to the to our stakeholders. So we brought in this, this acronym called PoWER. Of course, we have introduced now in the market. Wealth creation, right way to invest into products, into funds from a long-term perspective. I think the ultimate aim for a investor or any stakeholder is to ensure that they bring in that energy and that power in their investments, which will remain, which will make them get the right experience over periods of time. So power is a common word. Everyone tries to associate with power, and when we sort of break down the power word, it's very simple. It's something which we wanted to make people use that word power to assess the fund house or the thought process around products much simpler, much easier, and it remains in the mind. If something which I have to associate with investments, then power should be my way. I should be able to assess the fund. So that's where the thought process of power came in, and I'm sure as we go ahead in this conversation, we'll be able to know that how that simplified version of power makes will make things easier for people to probably shortlist products from here on.
But Saugata, why should MFDs look at power to select schemes for their client? I mean, what are the advantages of power?
So it's the probably advantage is not the I'll just make it more qualified further. It's the need. I think the need for the MFD as well as the investor is to assess any sort of fund or a fund house which has got all the characteristics of power. So what are the characteristics of power? Power is spelled as POWER. So what we say that let's start with PO, which is the most convenient and the most probably the closest to the assessment or closest to evaluation which any one tries to do when they are trying to select a fund is the performance. So what we have said that if performance is something which all of us are privy to, it's visible to us because it's numerical. Uh, why should one not look at performance over benchmark? Performances are relative, but if one has to select a fund or a strategy or a fund house, it is important to see whether the performance over benchmark criteria is being rightly if the fund has got the ability to perform better than the benchmark, and the performance over benchmark is rightly being demonstrated over long periods of time. So that is the first criteria which we feel should be the assessment criteria. So PO represents performance over benchmark. Then we said that chalo, performance definitely is in front of us. What next? The second letter in this is W. So W, what we said that if there are investors, lakhs and millions of investors who would still like to come into this into mutual fund industry, and when they are trying to assess any fund, why shouldn't one look at a fund which has got a wide investor base? So W stands for wide investor base. What does it mean? That if a fund has got vintage, for 5 year, 10 year, 15 year, 20 year, 25 years, like we have funds which are more than 25 years old, are there investors, in that fund, remaining invested for long periods of time, which has got a large base. So, so W stands for a wide investor base. More the investor base, more acceptability of the fund, and wider, visibility of that fund is basically what it means. We come to E. I think very, very important, which all of us as distributors should keep in mind, that it's the experience which helps the fund ride over multiple cycles, because investing is not about coming for 1 year, 2 year, and sort of giving a return which can be return of better than the benchmark, but has the experience of the fund been demonstrated over long periods of time. And all of us know in investment theory, one has to remain invested across cycles for us to probably get the best experience of wealth creation, because economy runs and economy grows around cycles, and there are multiple sectors and multiple categories which sort of perform at various points in times across market cycles. Hence, experience of the fund manager, experience of the fund house, experience of the way we manage the fund across market cycles. One has to keep a very, very close eye on that. That's where the E letter, strongly signifies experience. The final part is R. I think R is a very, very also a very, very important part of the assessment criteria, because one has to keep an eye on whether the fund's size is right sized. R stands for right sized fund. When we say right sized, because if you aggregate your experience of running the fund across market cycles, having a large investor base, having the pedigree of vintage, then there is an obvious thought that whether the fund which I'm trying to select, or which the investor is trying to zero down, or the distributor is trying to select, whether it has a right size. There cannot be, we are not saying that whether X size is wrong or Y size is right. We are saying that, there has to be a right sized, fund which one has to look at, and the size and other characteristics actually go hand in hand to probably give directionally an indication that yes, this fund house has got the ability to probably give my investor the right experience over long periods of time. Size also gives the ability to the fund as well as the fund house ability to invest into research, invest into human capital to manage the longevity of the fund, because a sized fund will always lead us to probably equip that fund with the best of the analysts, best of the research team, which can guide the journey of the fund over long periods of time. Because we all of us know stock picking, and the other aspects of fund management comes through experience of human capital. It's an all encompassing thing. When a fund house presents a concept like PoWER, which is in this case Nippon India Mutual Fund is presenting PoWER, it really brings to the table a selection methodology which will make the investor participate in a fund house which has got the strength and the ability to give more power to your portfolio, more confidence to the distributor that we are getting associated with a brand, with a fund which has shown history, and it will remain in the long periods of time in the journey of wealth creation. So that's probably the genesis as well as thought process around PoWER, and we really feel that this is going to become the journey ahead from our side.
Great thought, Chatty. So P is performance over benchmark, W is wider acceptance, E is experience, and R is basically right size, but in terms of quality, not quantity, right?
Yes.
Great.
Quality as well as I mentioned, all the ingredients which probably lead up to that size of the fund, which includes how much of experience one is giving to manage that fund. A small sized fund or the right sized fund has the ability to make the fund house invest into human capital to back it up and to remain relevant over long periods of time.
Okay. So Chatty, so we met many distributors and we have seen that many MFDs follow their own set of rules to shortlist funds. So why do you think that they should refer to external source to do this job for them?
Yeah, so I think I think the distribution fraternity is doing a great job by everyone has got their own assessment methodology. We really respect and regard that. But when we are trying to bring this thought process of PoWER, it's more to make their selection criteria more objective, taking into and moving probably, or giving them more tools to identify and shortlist funds basis. PO probably is a common thing which everyone assesses.
Right.
The wide investor network, investor base, the experience, probably still people would like to, would get to know that experience part, but we would really would like distributors to give a very high weightage to experience, because market cycles and the behavior around market cycles and the product and the thought process around managing funds around market cycles comes with experience. I think these elements, uh, if they are able to add into their research capabilities, into the research framework more objectively, probably the investor experience over long periods of time will be much better. So it is complementary. It is not to be replaced. Uh, we believe that PoWER will only complement and make their selection process much robust and more objective in times to come.
So, Chatty, talking about processes, so why do you think that investment process is more important than performance of an individual fund manager, maybe?
So a very important question, Nishant, and this is what I started off with. Uh, yeah, in the last 2.5 years, the way we have been trying to communicate the process part, the learning in this entire thing is, uh, try to communicate what is controllable in your hand. So if we are talking about process, or anyone is has built a process around their business, it is something which one can keep improving on, because either you have adopted that process as a best practice from something which was working good, which one has identified, on which you keep layering your internal thoughts to make the process more stronger and aligned to the company's thought process, and you run it over long periods of time. Processes can't be changed overnight. Processes should not be changed overnight. And I keep giving example of, say, an automobile, the largest automobile manufacturer in India, who has been in India for the last 40-45 years. Uh, Today also, when anyone is trying to buy the base product or the highest product in their shelf, what makes them stand out is the process what they have adopted over the last so many years, and the performance of the product is a byproduct, is a direct correlation of the process and the standardization and the uniformity of the process which they have laid down for the last say 4 or 5 decades. So what we believe in our company is, if the process is rightly adhered to, rightly framed, rightly implemented, and it is auditable, and there is a recurring improvement which we keep doing on the process, which is in our hand as controllable, the outcome will always be better. Outcome will always be investor oriented. And reason why we feel that process should be part of our thought process and our working, and hence we have adopted the process part very diligently in our company. We are not saying that performance can only come because of process. It is an art and science. You have to have science in every work what we do. Art is on top of that, where the skill of the fund manager and the analyst and the research team cumulatively work towards building or giving the right experience of performance to the investor over long periods of time. So it's a combination of both, but process is very important. And I think as a company, we believe that this should be this is the way forward for us. And hence, process is a very important part of our journey.
So, Chatty, one last question. So, many fund houses have, they follow processes and philosophies. But in such a scenario, how should MFDs and RIAs review investment process of different fund house?
So yeah, so it's an interesting question. I think fact sheet does not carry the process part. Okay, but I would only urge MFDs. When you all are discussing with us, like AMC guys, like us, myself, my team, our product team, our other colleagues whom all of us interact with.
Hmm.
In your tick box, in your assessment of the funds, please do start at least building the conversation around understanding the process and understanding the methodology which we all of us adopt, because every fund is supposed to have its own uh, you know differentiated characteristics. There are SEBI defined guidelines which have bucketed funds into various categories, but it is also important for all of us to know whether how every category is different from the other category. What is the methodology one uses? That I think will help us to probably make us objectively move towards the better selection of the funds in times to come. uh, Hence, I would only urge MFDs to start discussing and understanding process. It's sometimes very boring because, like I mentioned, process will never change. It will not have the probably the kicker which market dynamic might give. Today we are seeing that last 2 3 months the markets are in a situation where everyone is trying to know what is the reason for the downfall,
Hmm.
but no one will ever come and question whether in this downfall you should not question whether your process has changed, because process will remain the same.
Hmm.
And that's the, I think, the beauty of process is sort of something where we'll keep improving on, and hence it should be part of our assessment criteria while shortlisting funds in the times to come.
So, all right, with this, we have come to an end to this interesting episode. Thank you so much, Chatty, for that insightful session.
Thank you very much, Nishant, and really wish that all our MFDs have understood something more and something better from us today. And
Yes,
hopefully, we'll have a great association in
yes,
times
yes.
to come. Thank
I
you very
hope
much.
PoWER will help them select good funds for their clients.
Yes,
And
yes.
and finally, I thank each one of you for being such a wonderful audience. Have a great day, guys.